We've entered the final stages here in Saint Lucia, and there has just been a red card. We're literally on for the final few moments. A red card has come out. I believe it's for Kurt Frederick, the goal scorer, the captain of Saint Lucia. Has just been shown the red card, and there is a late free kick, and Simoncini is up for it for San Marino. So we join literally the final moments of this game. Before I jinx anything with the title and the thumbnail that I've gone for, can San Marino pull off a miraculous draw just as they did a few days ago? Free kick on the right hand side, everyone up for it for San Marino, everyone back for St Lucia apart from Frederick, who has just been sent off. The referee's hand is in the air. The delivery is swung in, it's towards the back post. Oh, the keeper comes and claims it for St Lucia, and now he bowls it out quickly, looking for a fast counter-attack as the keeper's out of play. But that ball goes straight out. What have San Marino got left in the tank here? That is the question. What have they got left? What can they do? They go long, they go direct. Battling away, fighting. St Lucia, the 10 men of St Lucia, fighting hard. The ball now down the San Marino end. The final few stages here. Long ball, cleared away. We're into added time, at the end of added time. Game kicked off about 2 hours ago. Throw in. Can they get the ball in the box here? San Marino, yes they can. It's dropped but nothing doing. Hooked up in the air. Doesn't look like they're going to get the break here. Ball cleared away down the far end of the pitch. Ball with Simoncini now. Looks like a free kick was in fact given in the midst of all that for an offside. So it's a free kick to Saint Lucia. They're in an excellent position, and a substitution about to be made as well. And bizarrely, it's the goalkeeper who's coming off for St Lucia. The goalkeeper being substituted. I see we have a vote in the poll. Immediately the vote is for no. San Marino are not the worst team in the world. Who do you think are the worst team in the world? I don't know if this match will ever end. I was planning on going live when it finished to talk about the final result, which is why I was semi sort of ballsy with the title indeed of the video and the thumbnail. I thought it would be done by now, but we are still playing. We are still in added time. The keeper who's come off the bench has just shanked his kick, but it does drop to a St Lucian player, and that is a St Lucia free kick. I can't see. I'm struggling to see any way that San Marino would get back into this. They certainly can't win now, depending on how much added time the referee has chucked on in this one. Thank you for joining as we chat through this all-important question around San Marino, and we sort of debate who they might beat if they could in fact ever win a game. St Lucia go long. They've not put anyone forward. And that's it. That is it. It is full time. It is an official result. Saint Lucia 1, San Marino 0. Thank you. Yeah, it is. I think I have a voice for radio, and I've probably got a face for radio as well. So the game's finished. I will say excellent coverage on the link that I managed to find for that game. I enjoyed enjoyed most of it, and then I thought I'd hop on. We can close that down now as we look to talk about what we've just seen, really, and about what that means for San Marino. Tough one as I catch up on the Twitter sphere, but really, really tough game. If we're honest, it was a tough game to watch. San Marino struggled for large portions of that game to get any real control of the ball, any real control of the play. I would say that Saint Lucia were definitely the better team across the whole game, really. San Marino had patches, as they did in the first game, but really this was all about the Caribbean side on their home patch, kind of showing a bit more intensity. I still don't feel like there was much in terms of passages of play from either team. I think Saint Lucia tried to go wide and attack the wings, but never really managed to get the ball in towards the box. Of course, in the second half, scoring a goal that was ruled out shortly before the penalty was given. Tough to say what my views on the penalty were, given the replay that I saw was non-conclusive. I think I have to go with the referee on that one, because I can't clearly say that it wasn't a penalty. It did look a bit soft, but I had high hopes. I had real high hopes for San Marino to get another win, and that's no disrespect intended to Saint Lucia, but Saint Lucia haven't played all that much football across the last year to 18 months. Of course, they didn't take part in 2022 World Cup qualification. San Marino did. They've played Nations League. They've also had a host of friendlies in which they've done pretty well. But again, it was that classic thing for San Marino that they just don't score goals. Still better quality than Qatar versus Ecuador. Certainly better than World Cup hosts Qatar, I'd say. That was a dismal display from them, wasn't it, really? Ecuador found that all too easy, I think. A very dull second half. I can certainly say that this game was more entertaining, particularly in the second half. It also got a little bit spicy in this one. It sort of kicked off a little bit at points. Of course, there was the late red card as well to Kurt Frederick. I'm not sure if that was a second yellow offence, because he did, after the penalty, take off his shirt, which is, of course, a yellow card offence. So it might have been a second yellow, which saw Kurt Frederick leave the field. Ultimately, it didn't make a huge difference, because, again, you look at San Marino's results, and I think part of the reason why Ryan and I thought they might get a result here, certainly across the two legs, is I think we just thought, they're doing well against these better teams. Cape Verde, for example, are better than Saint Lucia. There's some European teams that are better than Saint Lucia and have only, say, beaten San Marino 1-0. So you look at this one and you think, okay, San Marino, they played the Seychelles, they should have won that game. Saint Lucia are a better side than the Seychelles, certainly in different areas of the pitch. But, Kurt Frederick, for example, the goal scorer, very decent player. But you still looked at San Marino, all right, they're without a few key players, and you'd still say, surely they can get a win here across the two games. But they were lucky in the first game. And of course they've lost again today. Just catching up on the comments, they're one of the worst teams in the world, but we know that for years. Saint Lucia aren't that bad. Yeah, no, I would say that, if you lose to Saint Lucia, you're not the worst team in the world. I wouldn't say you're the worst team in the world. I think if they'd have lost to the Seychelles, I think you'd be asking questions. Hi to Ilias as well. Good to have you back in the chat. Thanks to everyone who's been in the chat so far. Some new faces in there as well. What 100% chances they don't score? They have no goal scorers. I think that's the problem, and I think there was a few injuries as well, wasn't there? Nani. The thing is, it's difficult for me to sit here and go, it's players like Nani that they were without that have caused, problems for them, because they've never won a game. They've never really scored many goals. Ryan was giving us the stats in the preview video that we did, which we did sort of get wrong. I think I said one win for each. One win for Saint Lucia, one win for San Marino, and Ryan said a draw and a San Marino win. So we were both kind of half right. I think we just backed San Marino. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's European bias, but they've travelled away to the Caribbean, to the CONCACAF region, and they've just not really stepped up. Friendly Koala, an excellent name, has put in the chat as well, should participate in cup like OFC Nations Cup for better experiences. And of course, you know, they played the MSG Prime Minister's Cup earlier this year in that region as well, in Melanesia. And there's sides in there like Vanuatu and Fiji that it would be really interesting for San Marino to compete against. But having watched them play today, I just think that the challenge with San Marino is they set up defensively against teams they don't think they've got a chance against. And so when they do play teams like Saint Lucia or like the Seychelles, I don't think they've got any attacking patterns of play. And I know it's not always easy with the quality of players they have to develop clear patterns of play. But when they transition the ball from defence to midfield and look to then attack, there's no consistency in what they're attempting to do. Sometimes they play direct, sometimes they play short passes. It just seems to be kick it to whoever's open. It's almost like it's just a large-scale sort of five-a-side football match in terms of the positions going forward don't seem to be clear. They don't seem to have anything from set pieces that can offer a bit of variety. It's quite clear with St Lucia that they're a bit more well constructed in that way. They've played less games, so it's interesting, but they do obviously play together more so at club level, or certainly in the same leagues. But, you know, Kurt Frederick's always going to be on set pieces. They always try and attack the wings and use their pace and then find cutbacks or crosses into the box. And defensively, they're very solid. Now, I'm not saying that they've got the best systems that I've ever seen, but it's clearer what they're trying to do when you look at them versus San Marino. Let's talk briefly about that World Cup game as well. I've seen stuff on Twitter since. You can see how Ecuador play and the systems of play that they try and bring in. And I think that for a side of this quality, if you were to have coaches brought in for sides of like San Marino, I'm not trying to discredit their current coaching staff, but they don't have systems of play. And I think their players just play there because you know they're some of the only players available, but perhaps they wouldn't fit a system that's conducive with winning a game. You know, you look at some of their fullbacks. They might be better in scenarios where they don't want to get slapped 5-0. You know, they've not conceded that many goals this year, and that was a huge issue that they needed to plug. But now they need to work out systems of attack. They need to work out how they're going to try and score against these teams. Because even in the OFC region, you see sides like the Solomon Islands, who are a particularly good team from that region, yes, but they have patterns of play. Even Papua New Guinea have a style of play and a tactic. I say even Papua New Guinea like they didn't win the tournament, but you know, every side, a lot of sides across the world have patterns of play. With a better striker, San Marino would have won against Seychelles. I completely agree with the second part of that. Defensively, they aren't that bad anymore. I think even with the players they currently have, they should have beaten the Seychelles. I mean, it's mental that they didn't really. And I think that's far more of a baseline for them about who they can compete against than St Lucia. I mean, St Lucia are 172 in the FIFA World Rankings? That is quite a lot of places above San Marino. You know, I think it's quite easy to look at a Caribbean side that didn't compete in World Cup qualifiers and that played in Nations League C last time out and say they're not very good, but they are still better than a lot of teams in the world. I would love to see, you know, I follow Turks and Caicos Islands quite closely. You see my Billy Forbes shirt just up there. I would love to see them play against a side like Turks and Caicos Islands, or maybe one of the non-FIFA registered sides like Sint Maarten, like Dutch Sint Maarten, because you know, and even Anguilla, Tonga, American Samoa, as ML has put in the chat there. Yeah, they're not the worst team in the world, and defensively, you can say for a fact that they're not the worst team in the world. Now they've sorted that out. They don't concede that many goals to teams that aren't very good, but they just need to work on attacking, and that's not going to help them really when they come up against England. It's not. You know, the defensive work is what they've done, and that's to stop the 8, 9, 10-0 defeats that they were suffering more so. But you've even mentioned Turks and Caicos Islands in your comment there, ML, as I was speaking to the exact same. You know, these are sides that are poor. You know, Turks and Caicos Islands are a side that I know a lot about, having followed them for a long time, and they are, again, another side that don't really have a system. The only thing I'd say for a side like that, more so than perhaps Tonga, or American Samoa, for example, is they have got a star man in Billy Forbes, who's a good player. But really, it's so tough to get a read of where San Marino are with their progression because they just don't score. And if you don't score, you never win. Fairly obvious comment, but as I've said already, they're not that bad defensively. They've gone away to Saint Lucia, who aren't a bad side. They're now in Nations League B, of course, and they've conceded one and then one again. Today's one was a penalty. There wasn't that many chances for Saint Lucia. Saint Lucia were definitely better, but there wasn't that many chances. And of course, they got the draw last time out, again only conceding one. But they've only scored one across those 2 games. I think you would have probably, been a fool to bet over sort of 2.5 goals in these games. And I think that's what all the kind of gambling companies are trying to push, really, is these games they're never going to have goals in. You look at San Marino's last 3 games, they scored 1 goal, conceded 2, but 0 wins in that. 0 wins. And yes, they were unlucky against Seychelles, who were obviously lower in the rankings, but who does San Marino need to play against to get that win, and how will that springboard them? I think for me, what I'd like to, I do think they need some new ideas. I completely agree with the comments coming in. They do defend at all costs, and they're not bad at that anymore, but they need to work on attacking systems of play. Even working on some set pieces might help them. They're quite a big side, not necessarily in the context of Saint Lucia, but if they play against some of the poorer Asian teams, for example, a Timor-Leste or a Myanmar or someone like that, you'd feel like they need to utilise their physicality a little bit more. I think what's clear to me is that they don't have that much dynamism and pace going forward either, and that is, at this level of football, quite crucial. You can score goals or certainly create goal-scoring chances with someone that's just fast. They don't need to be particularly gifted at football to create chances. And I think you see that particularly in OFC and also this kind of Southeast Asian region where there's a lot of pace and power and less technical ability. That's not true of all Asian sides, of course, but I'm talking about sides like Bhutan, Brunei, Timor-Leste, sides like that, Mongolia as well. But what's next, and what do I want to see for San Marino to kind of back up what you're putting in the comments and back up what we're saying in the poll? At the minute, we're 88% no in terms of, are San Marino the worst team in the world? And I'd have to agree, I don't think they are the worst team in the world. But what we need to see in 2023 is we need to see fixtures against sides within 5 places of them. I don't think you're going to get a San Marino Eritrea, because Eritrea is a more complicated kind of geopolitical story there. But can we get in Turks and Caicos Islands? Can we get in Anguilla? Can we get a bit of a Caribbean tour going? Can we look at Nations League C and set up fixtures against them? Now, will that necessarily help them going forward in Europe? As I've said, no. But I don't think that San Marino fans or supporters of San Marino or Minnow Nations football care about San Marino's performance in the Nations League or care about San Marino's performance in Euro or World Cup qualifiers. They're never going to qualify for a World Cup for the next however many years. I get that theoretically they could qualify at some point. Micronesia, worst team in the world, not a part of FIFA. And that's what I'm talking about as well, is there are non-FIFA nations, Micronesia, Saint Martin in the Caribbean as well, sides that compete in CONCACAF Nations League, that you could set up a fixture against, and these are not good sides. Turks and Caicos Islands, British Virgin Islands, for example, that's not a challenging game to organise. A lot of the British Virgin Islands internationals play in the UK. It wouldn't be difficult for San Marino to organise a fixture there. A friendly match. It wouldn't even have to be a FIFA registered friendly. It would just have to be a friendly of some sort. And it's similar with Anguilla as well. They have played friendlies in the UK. They played Windsor. I went to that match. They also played British Virgin Islands, and Ryan went to that match as well. We've seen these sides play in the UK. Geographically, this is close. This is easy for San Marino to get some players into England. You could probably get together a Montserrat 11. You could play. You probably couldn't play Turks and Caicos Islands, but you could definitely play British Virgin Islands, and you could also play Anguilla. not sort of full sides. NMI, are we talking about Namibia? Whose FIFA code is NMI? Am I being dense in the head? Something Islands, perhaps. I'm trying to think. Put it in the comments and I'll know immediately. Because there are sides out there that they could play and they could get a result against, but they need... Do they need a change in coach? Probably. You'd probably say that would be harsh because they've certainly shored it up at the back, but I do think, yes, yeah, Northern Mariana Island. Exactly, that. Those kind of teams, I think those are the... I think San Marino really need to kind of change where they're pitching, where they're at the minute, because they're clearly not good enough to face sides like Saint Lucia yet. And it's good experience. It is good experience, but when you go away to Saint Lucia, score one goal and don't win a game, was it really worth it? What have you learned about yourselves? What have you learned as a side? I think they need confidence. I think the one thing that they need is confidence, and I think you need to play a gimme game. And for San Marino, lowest ranked side in the world, I think they're playing a lot of these friendlies as FIFA registered friendlies, so they get FIFA points because they're trying to move up the rankings. And I think, first one, forget that. Forget trying to move up in the rankings. What you need first and foremost is systems. You need your best players back. Nani, Berardi, etc. Rinaldi, you know, he needed to have done better. But you need to get your best players back, get your systems of attack right, and play a side that's not FIFA registered or is around you in the rankings. British Virgin Islands, Turks and Caicos Islands, Anguilla, a side like that. Not to disrespect these sides, but what I think is they could get a goal or two in these games because they're going away to these teams or facing these teams, even at home at the minute, they're just not scoring. ML's put a comment in, St Lucia have Frederick, who's the all-star in his team, and he is. That's absolutely right. Takes all the set pieces, apart from left side corners, which is the in-swinger from the right footer. You know, free kicks, of course he's taking the penalties, the captain of his team. And he really commands it, big, strong, powerful player. And they have that all-star, and I think that San Marino do lack that all-star. They used to have Selva, who's a bit of, you know, he was the captain, he was the main man, he was a decent player for San Marino, and they haven't really replaced him. They lack a lot in central midfield, Yes, they can't score, but you look at their defenders, players like Palazzi and players like that aren't bad. Their GK's not bad, Simoncini, etc. Not bad, but they don't have a leader. They don't have a leader out there. And someone to really take the game by the scruff of the neck. I think what I'll put out there and put to everyone who's joined me, what is a late evening in the UK and across the world. Obviously, it's either early morning or late evening in other places. So thank you very much for joining. What will be your number one fixture? Say it's 2023 and San Marino have said to you, who should we play? What team would you be putting in if you had to pick one? If you had to pick one team for them to play? And again, you know, it's coming through. San Marino, the worst team in the world. No, people overridingly think they are not the worst team in the world, but it's becoming tougher and tougher to back that up. For me, if I had to pick one team, if I had to pick one opposition, I think I would have to go, because of my bias and because of my affiliation to the Turks and Caicos Islands, I would have to go Turks and Caicos Islands versus San Marino in San Marino. I think that would be my thing. I think they need more home games against these sides that they can beat as well. They've got the infrastructure there to put together a decent showing. 1-0, not 1-1. It was 1-0 tonight. They've played twice. So tonight's game was 1-0 to St Lucia. The previous game was 1-1. ML's come straight in with, I think, the fixture that a lot of people would want to see, the other final 2.0, the lowest ranked teams in the world, San Marino versus Anguilla. Can we see San Marino versus Anguilla in 2022? That's what people want to see. They want to see the other final. They want to see San Marino get a win. They failed again tonight. Where do they go from here? Do they have to readjust and face even lower ranked sides to try and get the win? They need to work on their attacking systems. I think we're all in agreement in the chat. Gonna knock it on the head. It's been short and sweet for a live, well aware. Disrespect to Marco Fanilas, the Taiwan machine. I'll tell you what about Marco before I go. Big fan of Marco. We've had him on the channel, if you haven't seen the friendly. And I did, of course, say Billy Forbes is the #1 man, because he is. Marco needs to get back in that international team, but because of COVID, he's not been able to play. But I tell you what, Turks and Caicos Islands versus San Marino, I think that's why it would be interesting, because Turks and Caicos Islands defensively particularly quite poor, and then they've got a few key players such as Mackinson Cadet in central midfield, obviously Junior Paul going forward, Billy Forbes on the other side. But having Marco back in that team, that would be really, really good. FIFA helps Seychelles with money to travel, and yeah, I think that's fair enough for games like that. I think that the FIFA should help sides from the Caribbean travel a bit more outside. You rarely see a Caribbean side play an away game that isn't in the Caribbean, and I think we'd also like to see that more as well. Get them to a bit more of a global audience. Thank you very much to everyone who's joined. Absolutely love the community. Great to have you on and just chat football. Chat San Marino. We are covering stuff on the World Cup. It's not really our kind of standard thing, but it's the World Cup, so we've got to. So please do join us for some of that. And we'll be back really covering Minnow Nation football when the Mitsubishi Electric Cup comes back as well, in the Asian tournament there. So check out our preview for that. That is already on the channel. Thanks very much for watching. Andorra. I love St Kitts. St Kitts are a passionate team, as are Andorra. Keep the comments coming in. Keep the views coming in. It's great. Absolutely love it. And we will see you next time. And of course, to everyone who's got their side competing in the World Cup, all the best of luck to you. England play tomorrow, so I will of course be watching that whilst working. That's all from me. Thank you very much. Unlucky to San Marino, but congratulations to Saint Lucia for 2 fantastic results, despite the fact they let it slip in the first game. Where will they go next? Where will San Marino go next? Where will I go next? I'll see you next time.